Okay, aloha and welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology Conference, sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Maddie, and I will be facilitating this session. We are so honored to have Dagan Bernstein join us today to share his expertise through a 45-minute presentation titled Tech Tools for the Project-Based Classroom. Please be aware that we will be recording during this session. If you do not want to be recorded, you may want to consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recordings afterwards. The recordings will be made available on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after this event. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dagan Bernstein.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. So nice to see you all here joining me. Happy Saturday morning. And I know I'm with a group of very dedicated educators here who are giving up a Saturday morning to learn some stuff, right? As a classroom teacher myself, I know how much of a challenge it is right now. I've been dealing with kids in and out of the rooms, kids having to go home, getting absences at the last second, and it's been difficult to manage, but we're doing it. We're all doing awesome, and I just mahalo everyone for taking some time out of their Saturday morning to come join. Before I jump into the presentation, this is more of a workshop. I've set this up so we can do some stuff together. Technology for me is a way to build together. So if you are maybe doing some stuff around the house or maybe on a walk and you want to keep your camera off, that's all good. If you want to turn your camera on and jump in, that would be great too. It's your choice. But I'm going to share my screen and share a slide deck, but I'll kind of be breaking off of that from time to time. And I would love to get some interaction and some engagement. It'll help make this presentation, I think, a lot richer. So just wanted to throw that out there before I start. Okay, I'm going to try and share do the share. My computer's been so slow on Zoom shares, so I'm just going to give it my best shot. All right, so yeah, you're here for Tech Tools for the Project-Based Classroom. Again, my name is Dagan Bernstein, and I'm currently the K-8 capstone coordinator at Hawaii Preparatory Academy here on Hawaii Island, a K-12 independent school. And we have two campuses, and I'm at the K-8 division. And if any of you out there are on Twitter, if you're part of the 808 Twitter family, I'm on there at Dagan Bernstein. Would love to connect on there. I love meeting, connecting, and growing with all you wonderful educators on Twitter. So who am I? Well, this is a great little graphic that was shared by someone from the Adobe Education Exchange. And I do have a link to this template that I'm going to share during today's presentation. But I think it's a great way to kind of introduce ourselves. And I've also used this with students. But this kind of summarizes kind of, who I am, and I think who a lot of us are as educators. We're not just people who show up at 7 in the morning to go teach and go home at 4 in the afternoon and disappear. So I'm also an artist. I'm a futurist, a musician, a bibliophile. I love collecting books. I'm also a songwriter, an educator. I love to write and design things. For those of you who came in early, some of that ukulele music is actually some of my original music that I recorded that I was sharing with you all. So that's kind of a little bit about myself. But beyond that, I was raised here on Hawaii Island in the district of Kona, in the area of Kealakekua. But I'm currently located in Waimea, in the district of Kohala, where I've been since middle school. And I love Waimea. It's my home, it's my community, and I plan to never leave. So here's today's agenda. Here's what we want to do today. Well, first, I'm going to center us kind of a little bit on what a project-based classroom is and kind of how I think about what it means when we say a project-based classroom. We're going to review some kind of crucial components of what project and design work looks like. I really want to ground us in kind of just the pedagogy of project work before we jump into all the tech tools. And then I'm going to introduce some of the tech tools that I use and other educators have shared with me to help support this project work. And then really, hopefully, time permitting, I've tried to set this up, like I said, where we can play with a couple of these tools and hopefully get some interaction with all of you. So first, let's talk, what is a project-based classroom? What do we mean when we say these things? Well, to me, it actually means a lot of things. The most obvious one, I think, is project-based learning, PBL. It's a very common model right now of teaching kids content. But it also can mean other things. It can mean a capstone project like I do here at HPA, which is a culminating project at key division points. We do them at grades 5, 8, and 12, but more commonly they're done at grades 12. It could be experiential learning. That's also how I think of a project-based classroom. Getting out, maybe doing some work outside in your community, in your kai'u, maybe connecting with community groups. It can also be aina-based learning, doing work in the aina, working in at a lo'i, or doing some tree reforestation. Senior legacy projects. I know I've worked with Kamehameha Schools, Kea'au here on Hawaii Island, on their giving some feedback on their senior legacy projects, and I see a lot of parallels with our capstone. Or also inquiry-based learning is another term that's out there. So for me, all of these things are a project-based classroom, what a project-based classroom is. And there's even probably 100 more that you could build off of these terminologies here. And I kind of like to joke sometimes, how about we just call these learning-based learning? Because really at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to engage our learners, our students, in the process of learning. And we just have these different models that are actually really old. This is nothing new. This has been part of education for a long time. We're just finally seeing a resurgence of these in our classroom. So have the LOL emoji, because really I don't like getting caught up in terminology. I think it can get a little silly, and I've been to a lot of presentations of people espousing this model and that model. It's all about what works for you, your students, your school, and your situation to support student learning. So I have this revolutionary model that I call learning-based learning, right? And what's at the center of all these models? Well, it's the students. That's what I think all of us, introduce these models of learning because of the students. We want to increase student agency. We want students to drive their learning, to thrive, to be able to make independent decisions, to decide what they want to learn, how they want to learn it, and how also they want to be assessed on this content as well. So really, I think as long as we're keeping, in my opinion, we're keeping the students at the center of the learning experience, then we are engaging in a model of learning that can help students thrive. So that's kind of my my grounding with what a project-based classroom looks like. So before we jump into the tech, I want to share one quote that I think is really, really important. It's from this fabulous book I recently read called Failure to Disrupt. And the quote is, "Change won't come from heroic developers or even technology firms, but from communities of educators, researchers, and designers oriented towards innovative pedagogy and a commitment to educational equity." And the emphasis there on innovative pedagogy and educational equity are mine. And I love this quote because this is a book about technology. And I really do believe that, and you're here probably because you have an interest in technology, maybe learning some new tools or expanding on ones that you already use. And we know that if we're engaging with sound pedagogical practice, and we're also striving for equity for our students, that's really that's the core of what we're trying to do. It isn't just about using an app for the sake of using an app. So our first little interactive piece I would like us to do is I'm going to put a Jamboard in the chat, and I would just like to get to know, it'll help me kind of know who's here, and maybe how would you describe your programming? So I'm going to stop the screen share here just for 1 second. I'm going to grab my, hope I got to escape out of that. Sorry, I'm going to grab the link to this Jamboard. Oh, I actually closed that link. Nope, here it is. So I'll just get this link. And I'll copy that link. And if you go into the chat, you should see a link there. Please let me know in the chat if you don't see it. And when you open up this link to this Jamboard, I can go back to my screen share here. And again, my computer runs woefully slow. I see some people in the Jamboard. So you'll see there's some different learning models there, right? PBL, inquiry-based learning, capstone, senior legacy. And I went back and forth on, I mean, experiential IDA-based learning are probably less common these days, but please, I would love to hear from you if that's a model of learning that you're using. You could, and I also know that that type of model can fit in PBL or inquiry-based. So if you could just grab a sticky note in the left column, if you haven't used a Jamboard before, there's the sticky note feature, and it'll open up a sticky note. You can use a different color. And if you could just put your name and then your school, and you can save that sticky note. And then if you can just place that, let's say you do PBL, you can just put that over here. And if we could get, give you a couple minutes here to just share out your school and what type of model you're using, that would be great. And you can see I'm over here, Dagan at Hawaii Preparatory Academy with Capstone. And I'll give some room. I'm assuming we're going to have a lot of PBL because I do meet a lot of teachers across the state here who are involved in PBL. Awesome, great. I see Laurel there. Hi, Laurel. Thank you so much for helping get this all set up. They're at Sacred Hearts in inquiry-based learning. I see Wendy Tomita at, is that Iolani? It's a little small on my, I have to zoom in a little bit. And Heidi at Kailua High School. Oh, is that Wendy Tomita at Ali'i Olani Elementary? I'm like so bad with my Oahu geography. Kalamai, definitely Hawaii Island centered. And I also see, oh, UH Manoa Library Information Science. Very nice, Mira. And Dole Middle over there, Mrs. T. Great, Brenda Chase at Kapolei. I know Brenda Chase, that name looks familiar. Okay, great, this is really helpful. Gives me a sense of where people are at and what they're doing. Hi, Warren from Pearl City, doing some inquiry-based learning. Awesome, it's also a great way to see what some other people are doing. Great, and oh, Heidi, Kailua, hi, you have a capstone program, let's connect. I'm trying to find more capstone programs happening across the state. And looks like Teresa at St. Louis, Keli'i at Kaimuki, Claire at Kamehameha. And if you want to, you can add onto your sticky note, if you have maybe in parentheses, you can put a specific model that maybe isn't represented, or none if you actually don't have kind of a project-based classroom, and maybe you're just here to learn about how to start one, so which is great too. Okay, I'm like a million times zoomed in. I don't know what I just did right there. Okay, great. That's really, really helpful for me to get a sense of where we are all at. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to jump back to my presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so let's look at some of the components of a project-based classroom. When, in general, like these are some things that I run into or other teachers have told me that they run into when you're managing projects or you're managing learning centered around projects. There's just some unique things that come up when you manage the learning or guide the learning that are different than maybe a more content-centered classroom that's has a pretty linear progression of learning. Introduce content, review content, and then maybe assess content knowledge, right? So if we're in a project-based classroom, it works a lot more dynamically, a lot more circularly, right? So one thing I noticed is one challenge is document distribution, right? We're dealing with a lot more stuff now, and we got a classroom of however many kids, or even a full grade level, or in my case, I'm managing 40 kids in 8th grade and 20 kids in the 5th grade, and I have just Google files all over the place, and it can be kind of a nightmare. So we're trying to push documents to students, right? We're trying to get templates or feedback forms to them, and we're trying to manage and organize all this information and all these resources. Maybe we're trying to create some shared templates, and we want students to have different copies of all these templates. Yeah, so as I go through each of these, I'm kind of sharing some of my thinking of what I'm looking for. So what I'm looking for when I'm dealing with this issue is I want things that are interoperable, meaning I want some system where I got a student with a Chromebook, I got a student with a MacBook, I got a student with a Windows machine, I got a student with a Padlet, or I'm sorry, like an iPad, or I have school issued Chromebooks, or whatever your case may be. I want something that's going to work with all of these different devices, because I've had a classroom of 15 kids, 15 different devices, and it can be a little bit of a nightmare because I turn into now like a troubleshooter. And I also want something that's standardized, something that's just going to look the same on each student device. Okay. So again, I'm going to go through each of these, and then later we're going to connect some tech tools to help support this. The second one is resource curation, right? A lot of times you have students who are doing some research. They're independently researching, they're gathering information, and they're curating information, trying to keep it in one place. So, a project-based classroom is going to have students as information gatherers. And there's really, I think of this as there's kind of two types of information that they're gathering in this process. Sometimes it's just factual information. They're doing research. They're researching ocean pollution, and they just need information on statistics and maybe some science websites, government websites, information from NGOs. So it's just factual information. But sometimes, especially in a capstone or a product-centered project classroom where they're making stuff, there's how-to information. Maybe they're learning how to code an app, or they're learning how to make a website, or they're learning how to build something, do 3D printing, or just create a model of something. So there's different types of resources that they're going to be curating. So my number one thing is I want something that's accessible in the sense that they can go and find wherever they're housing their resources easily. I don't want it to be difficult for a student to have to pull up information that they'll need to access throughout the project experience. I want it to be real accessible and easy for them to find. But I also want it to be robust. I want this curation tool to be able to handle a lot of multimedia. I might have YouTube videos, I might have PDFs, I might have links to things in a Google Drive. I might have, different files in different formats, maybe movies or audio, a podcast. There could be all different types of information the student is using to support their project. So I need something that can handle the variety of media that they might be using. Okay, third one is a student journal. I think my experience has been that if you are managing a project, that it's important that students have some type of journal where they're documenting their process as they move through this project experience, which, it depends. It could be something that takes place over, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe a specific unit. Sometimes these take place over a longer period of time, an entire quarter, maybe a semester, or in my case with a capstone project or a senior legacy project, these take place over a full school year. So we want some sort of journal where they can document their process. A lot of these project and these learning models really emphasize process versus just content acquisition. So we want to make sure that they have a place where they can put key milestones and key moments of their learning in one place. So that's this next bullet point, is they want to be able to capture moments as they happen. They tested their Arduino robot or whatever. They want to have a small video of that. They want to capture that moment and be able to put it somewhere. But it's also important that they have opportunities for reflection. These student journals are a great place throughout the process for them to stop and reflect on their process, or maybe reflect on feedback that they're getting from peers or their advisor. So for this one, it's about like the multi-modality of the journal, kind of similar to the resource curation, in that we want it to be able to handle maybe just text, just writing. We want it to be able to handle, maybe they want to do an audio recording. I'm thinking of differentiation here as well. I maybe want it to be able to handle, they do a video recording of themselves, maybe a video recording of feedback, or maybe just drawing, maybe something that's tablet based, or where they can draw something out. So a journal that can handle multi modes of sharing and processing information is going to be ideal. Again, especially as we look at differentiated instruction. Some students hate writing reflections, and I understand that, and I do try to give them options. Sometimes an audio reflection is much better. Some other students, an audio or video reflection is a horror to them, and just be able to write it is the best option. So we want to make sure, in my opinion, that we give them those options. Okay, a couple more, just 2 more here. Obviously, project planning comes up quite a bit. Students have to plan these projects. There's multiple steps to these projects. And we want a way that students can keep themselves accountable. And there's actually, to me, there's kind of 3 pieces to this accountability. Well, number 1's to themselves. To me, project learning in the classroom is about putting more ownership and agency on the student. So they need to be accountable to themselves. They need to be accountable to each other. A robust and dynamic project learning classroom involves students collaborating and using each other, and really changing the paradigm from them relying on me as the teacher or their advisor. So they need to be accountable to each other. And then, of course, they do need to be accountable to us as well as the classroom teacher. We're not just, student agency doesn't mean teacher in agency. It just means that we're giving students more agency. So we want to make sure that we have a way to keep them accountable. And, a quick side note is, in managing their tasks and milestones, this doesn't always need a tech tool. I actually do both. I do have tech tools that I use for project planning, but I also have a huge whiteboard. I dedicated one wall of my room. And again, I just do capstone, so this is helpful for me. And I have every student project and all their tasks on there. So it's up and it's visible, and everyone can see it, and they check tasks off in front of the whole class as they finish them. So it doesn't always need to be a tech tool, but I do use some tools to support how they manage all their tasks. And also it communicates their progress. I think that's really important, especially for the students. They need to see that they're moving this project forward in some way. When they have a plan, they can check things off, they can mark things as complete. It just helps them visually see that they're actually progressing. So what we're looking for in this, to me, it's all about just adaptability. Do we have a platform that can change throughout the project process? We know that projects are messy. We know that projects take twists and turns, and we want something that's adaptable to change throughout their process. So something they can edit, something they can update, something they can change dates, erase, move. I mean, I just had a student have their entire project come apart because it involved being able to visit hospitals, and obviously, or not visit hospitals, they were actually going to send care packages to hospitals. And just with this recent uptick in Omicron cases, the hospital was not comfortable taking outside donations at the moment. So she has to pivot her project. So we were using a task management tool that allowed you to archive task cards and create new ones. And so it still kept that project plan for reference later, but allowed her to create a new one. So something that's adaptable is going to be really helpful. Okay, and then the last one, it overlaps a little bit with student journals. I think it depends how you approach this, but a student portfolio is a big part as well. I think of this as more as an archive versus the journal is the while it's happening. The portfolio, while you can build it while it's happening, it's more of an archive for after it's happened, an archive of the student experience. So it's a place they can house all their work. They can keep it there for later reference. This is especially valuable for students in the upper grades. I'm thinking seniors, as more and more colleges are looking for students who have experience with projects. Having an archive can be really valuable. And also as they transition from different divisions and maybe across schools, that they can have something when they maybe go to a new high school because their area district doesn't have, they're changing out of a middle school. They have this archive of their work and their previous experience at their other school when they go to a new high school. Okay, and oops. Then also a way to share their project with external audiences. Yeah, a lot of schools do have showcases at the end of project experiences, and a portfolio is a great way to share it with mentors, community members, family members, or just their school as a whole. And, back to the archive piece, it's a proof of their work. I think that's really valuable. I don't keep my tests from high school. A lot of students don't, but if I had a portfolio, I might have kept that. It would be cool to have a portfolio of what I did in high school. It's a little different than just a test. So for these, I'm looking for number one, I'm looking for customization. I want students to be able to customize it and make it uniquely them, whether that's with template choice or uploading pictures or fonts or colors. I think it's a real great place for students to be creative and to express themselves in their portfolio. Okay, so what we're going to do now, so that was, we have 15 minutes now, and my question here for all of you is what we should focus on. So again, I went through 5 different things, and actually I should have made a slide that summarized them, but document distribution, resource curation, student journals, project planning, and student portfolios. I want this time to be yours, and I do want you to have a chance. So I'm going to queue up Maddie. My host has a poll that she can post, and there it is. And if you can just choose a topic that you would like to focus on, we'll kind of see where we're at, and maybe we can choose one that can help support the most people. But someone did put in the chat, can you share any easy to use templates? I do have, everything is going to be shareable and is shareable. And we might actually go to one of those templates in this process, depending on what people share. So yes, definitely. Everything I have is shareable. So can everyone see that poll? Is that up there? I think it's asking me to. I get to vote too. Ooh, I guess I can skew the results. I don't know, and I think Maddie is managing the poll, and maybe she can let me know if votes are coming in or where we're
Yes,
at?
we're getting the votes and we just need 7 more.
Okay, so it'd be great if everyone could vote, but some people might have just put the AirPods on and are hanging laundry or something. That's what I was doing right before I started this. I was trying to get all my laundry done on a Saturday morning.
So we have about 5 more participants that need to vote.
Okay, I'll give you just maybe 60 more seconds to get those in, and I do want to try and use these 15 minutes as the best we can.
One more.
Okay, great. And while we're waiting for that last one to come in, I did forget at the beginning of my presentation to mahalo Sacred Hearts and to mahalo the tech support here for putting on this event, and the iTeach808 Ohana and Laurel Oshiro and her whole team. And I'm sure I'm forgetting someone in there, but I want to make sure that I remind everyone to mahalo everyone supporting this. And then if, I don't know if the survey is still open, but there's those $10 Target gift cards that I know I want to win. So make sure you fill that out. All right, so we got a winner here, Maddie?
So we are missing 3 people, but it looks like
Okay.
project planning, and I'm going to end the poll right now.
So thank you very much.
Okay, project planning is number 1. Do we, oh, I can see it. Okay. So looks like project planning and portfolios. And then, so project planning, and then I got 2 is portfolios. And then let's see if we can go to resource citation. Okay, well, it's actually curation, but citation's a little bit different. I'm not going to open up that can of worms, but sorry if that was a misprint there. But let's just go to then resource curation. Okay, thank you, Maddie. Okay, so project planning. Let me just jump back over to my slide deck here. I gotta, it's kind of like choose your own adventure, yeah? Okay, so project planning. All right, lots and lots of really, really great tools for project planning. And again, I'm going to start with, because I'm all about, I think equity and access to me in technology is a huge issue and a huge priority. You know, I'm on the board for HISTE, the Hawaii Society of Technology and Education, and it's something we talk about a lot. And I think it's a really important thing that any person who's going to talk about technology needs to understand. So really, to me, one of the best and easiest tools to use for project planning is actually Jamboard. I think Jamboard can be fabulous. So I put another Jamboard in the chat there that would love everyone to jump over to, and I'll share my screen. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use Jamboard actually for project management. So, okay, cool. I see some people in that, that should say Project Scrum Task Board. So if you're having trouble getting that, the chat is, the link's in the chat. So basically, for me, I structure using a Kanban model, okay, which was actually been borrowed by a lot of, you know, project and tech companies, and it's a project management tool that Toyota Corporation used in their factories in Japan. And it's really focused on these 3 columns. You have your to-do, your work in progress, and your done. You can use doing, done, or I've even added a 4th column on ready to review. But I really do think having these 3 columns can be really helpful. And what I love about Jamboard, and just to, sorry to back this up, if I remember I was starting to use Jamboard and I was like, okay, this is cool, but like it's so basic. I can basically use 2 text fonts and like 1 color. And I was in a presentation and someone had this cool background and I was like, where did they find that? I'm not seeing it. So actually, I would recommend, this is like an app smash here, but go to Canva, get your free educator account through Canva and type in Jamboard backgrounds. Because this was like pretty much 95% pre-made for me. I just literally changed like a couple words here and there. And then I just, boom, went to set background, and then, or it wasn't set background. I think it was like, there's a add background button, or yeah, an add image, and boom, I had this really cool looking Jamboard. So that's kind of the insider hint there. Use the Canva, I just typed in Kanban planning board and this popped up. So I love using this. Each student has their project and they would start with their to-dos, and like, this is just kind of let's say they have an art project. And I would love, while we're looking at this, if you want to add stuff on here, I love being interactive. So if you want to like add what would be a task if you had an art project? Let's invent a project about doing a painting, talking about saving whales in our ocean or whatever. Okay, so maybe they would need to schedule a phone call with marine biologist. I'm a really sloppy typer. Hopefully that came out right. Okay, so that's one task here. If you think of other tasks, please add them in there. I think this is, did I make this editable? Anyone on the internet can edit, yes. Okay, so work in progress, right? So that week, maybe they're ordering supplies on Amazon. And maybe they already have their researched art supplies for a group collage. So that's in the done column, their work in progress. So now as their teacher, I can look over, I can see their task board, see what they're working on. I like having these accessible for the whole class to see so they can keep each other accountable. And as they're done, order supplies is done, boom, move it over to the done column. What's next? Well, they got to schedule that phone call with the marine biologist. And meanwhile, they have other to-dos. So I'm just going to put in some fake ones like to do item 1, to do item 3, to do item 4, whatever. So they have all of these tasks in their to-do column, and as their work in progress. But what I also like about this is, and I tell students, you can have a couple of things going on at once. Maybe you scheduled the phone call and you're also simultaneously, I don't know, updating your website or doing research. Okay, and then they're done. You can move them over here. I've also had kids like to edit them. They're like, Mr. Bernstein, when it's done, I make them orange. And then when they're in progress, I make them blue. Cool, do what you gotta do. Doesn't bother me. And I think it's a real clean, easy way to manage projects, especially with younger kids. Like I said, I do capstone with grade 5, and a lot of project tools can get pretty complex. And I also can share, while I'm with that, another one I do use, since a lot of people are interested in project management, and I think it is a big one. I do use Trello a lot. This is probably better for, I use it with 8th grade. It's just about it. I think they can just get it. It's a little too much for some kids. And there are some kids I've actually encouraged them to use Jamboard if it's too much. But I do know, let's just pull up a sample project here. I already told all the students that I use their projects when I present. So I think you can see this in Trello. It's same idea, but it's a lot more dynamic, right? I have to do, doing, ready for review, done. But it does add individual checklists for each task. So right now they're working on pre-production work. So maybe they have, the student is actually making an animated video about homophobia and transphobia. And they have specific checklists and they have due dates. So it's obviously much more detailed. But I think the key is to this Kanban model, Scrum model works really well with whatever tool you're using. So high schoolers, probably Trello, and Trello is free for the student. I only have access to, I think, 5 free templates, but I have each student sign up and then they can share them with me so I can manage their projects from my own hub. But they are only using one of their free 5 ones, where I couldn't create 20 of them and share them with the students. Yeah. Okay, so that was the project management. Okay, I know we just have 4 minutes left. Does anyone have, project planning was like way high up there. So before I dig into portfolios, I do want to give a chance for some questions. Does anyone have any questions about that or any of what I covered there? Sorry, I've been trying to go as fast as I can, and I guess you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. I can't see
Dagan,
anyone. Uh-huh.
this is Brenda. There was one thing,
Hi.
I use Jamboard often, but
Yep.
you have a few little students that will erase others. Have they improved it to where they can't erase others' work? Like, I mean, you can send them, what I do is I send them a private one, but when I want a group one, have you seen if there's ability to lock the responses?
No, not that I'm aware of. And that does happen, right? Like the classic one is on shared Google Docs. Like for some reason, at least for me, every middle schooler thinks it's the funniest thing in the world when you select the text and make it white on a white background and it disappears. And I think that's a challenge from what I know, that Jamboard can't do that for shared project boards. I do think it's a great opportunity to talk about obviously digital citizenship and how to be responsible using shared technology, but that doesn't stop kids from still doing it, which can be very frustrating. So I don't know about the locking feature yet, Brenda.
Okay, I didn't realize that the whiteboard, I didn't think about that. There was one time everybody's work was gone before I got it, and they may have done that. Yeah.
They might have, I know, it's like, it's the dumbest trick ever. So I don't know, what I do is actually I remove them from the document and I tell them like, well, you get a 0 for this assignment because I don't know, you can't work on it anymore because you violated. Projects are great space to go over like shared agreements before you even start the project. So we do talk a lot about like, what are our agreements? What do we do when we collaborate? That I think is a great discussion to have before we start sharing these tools out.
Yes, this year the students are great with it. Last year I had some challenges, but yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's good. And but it's a great tool. I did give
Mhm.
them a private one where they can put their own private comments too. They each have their own
Right.
private Jamboard. So thank you.
Right.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Okay, so I know we just have one last minute here. So I did put in my resources a link to this Wakelet. That is my curation tool. And you can go to that link. And actually, I had to prepare all the different options because I wasn't sure where people were going to go with it. And you'll see that there's different links to, I had set up some things for taking notes or sample projects on Padlet. So if you want to play around with those resources, there's also a link to this slide deck in that Wakelet as well. And it also doubles as a great idea to use for curating your own resources in your classroom. So our 45 minutes is up. Thank you, all of you, for spending your Saturday with me. I just want to end with a reminder to think about what supports pedagogy and equity in your students when we're choosing what tech tools to use. And if you have any questions or any follow-up, I'm more than happy to help.
One more question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have Elin asking how to get the certification of participation. Oh wait, no, that's for us. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I can't help with that. I certify you, Lynn. No,
That's cute.
if you want to email me at daganbernstein@gmail or find me on Twitter, I would be more than happy to talk some more. And I am open and available to meeting with anyone if they have questions, just because I love sharing and I love learning. So mahalo everyone. Thank you, Maddie, for your support, and thank you to the iTeach808 Ohana for putting this event on.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dagan.
so much, Dagan. And for everyone's participation, we hope that you found the session helpful and made some valuable connections. Please help us complete the survey though on the iTeach808 website. I will post it again right here. The survey will be also sent to the email that you registered with. So if you could please also check your spam folder for any emails from iTeach808hawaii@gmail.com. And you will be entered to win one of 20 $5 Target gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. So thank you so much for being here today, and feel free to join the last sessions coming up, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.